Option Podcast on OptionVB.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear. And if you kick them all out, there would only be football and mixed martial arts, which, by the way, is not the arts. Well, sorry to disappoint you, Meryl Streep. You can go kick rocks, because that's all we're going to talk about today. Football, mixed martial arts. Welcome to episode 2. This is Sports Debate Tuesday, along with my boy Rob. Keep it McLean, and Miranda Gagne, our hostess with the mostest, who's going to be dishing off these debate questions for us. I'm Jason Dibelius. So it's one of those things where no time, no waste. Let's get started. Let's go to question number 1.
All right, let's talk about the Super Bowl. Okay, the Kansas City Chiefs defeated San Francisco 31-20 to win their first Super Bowl in 5 decades. The question is, did the Chiefs win this or did the 49ers lose?
All right. Rob McLean. I think, look, you always, if someone had to be self-honest, you're always going to say it's a little of both. The truth is in the middle. But since this is a debate show, the question is, whose side of the middle? And I'm going to have to go with San Francisco lost this. You are one of the top 2 or top 1 defenses in the league. You have a 10-point lead, and all you have to do is run the ball. Mahomes just threw a second interception. You have all the momentum in the world, and it's one of those things where I did a little stat here. Since that second interception, it was 11:57 on the clock. They rush 3 times, and they pass 6 times. Now, one of the passes is 3rd and 14. Okay, you got to do what you got to do. But you shouldn't be passing on 1st and 10 after your boy Mozart just got an 11-yard gain for a first down. So it's one of those things where it was hugely mismanaged. You before the second quarter ended, you even had John Lynch yelling timeout. He's not even the damn coach. He's standing next to the coach yelling timeout. So it was the first half was severely mismanaged. One of the underlying things that a lot of people aren't talking about, it was 2nd and 2, and Kansas City was penalized for ineligible man downfield. And instead of taking the penalty, they declined the penalty because it was a 3rd down situation. So now you're giving Kansas City Mahomes a 3rd and short. And you give Mahomes a 3rd and short, he's going to get the first down. So that was a mistake. I would rather take the 2nd and 12, the 10-yard penalty, instead of declining and go just to get to 3rd down to make it down 1 play. Because 12 and 2 with the 49ers allows 9 in a box. You dare those receivers to beat you. And it was just severely mismanaged. Got to give it up to Mahomes for at the end. You know, he didn't play a good Super Bowl game all around, but he played when it counted. My MVP is not him, and we're going to get into that. I think that might be one of the debate questions. But Rob McLean, the floor is yours.
Yeah, for me, it has to be San Francisco losing.
Was it more about Kansas City winning?
I'd have to say that the first half of the game played out exactly the way I thought. San Francisco, beat them back. It was completely mismanaged. It was definitely San Francisco losing because at the end of the day they lost, and they were up. They controlled the whole first half. They were making Pratrick Mahomes not play well. It wasn't just him not, making throws. He was making the throws. They just played good defense. And then, you come back in the second half of the game, and the real mismanagement was they didn't run the ball, which let their defense got tired. Their front four, which is their defense. Their back half is good. Their linebackers good, but everything goes off the pressure they get from their first half.
Front four heavy,
yeah,
no doubt.
So, if you get them tired, that's really, and I think it's going to be really difficult next season because now there's a template to beat a team that seemed almost unbeatable. The same thing happened with the Atlanta Falcons, and I don't like to bring it up. Obviously, there's a connection between the coach there, but we have to see like Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, that whole entire team doesn't look the same since that 28-3 debacle. And I don't think this is the same. It's just Kansas City won at the right time, and San Francisco allowed them to win. So I think it's, again, like you said, a little bit of both, but honestly, it's a little underwhelming of a Super Bowl from what we thought it was going to be because, like, it wasn't a shootout, and then it became a shootout at the end. But it just, I don't know. It just didn't seem like all. It was like a defensive matchup with a team with two good offenses. It doesn't make sense, you know.
But a very good point on the deja vu moment, huh? Like you get the lead, and you know you have a high you have an offense that can score. You got a decent running game, and you're right. The parts were different because Jones is probably better than any receiver the 49ers have, and they're Matt Ryan is having an MVP caliber type year. Just for the record, for those of you guys listening on right now, both Rob and myself, I think we both picked San Francisco to win this. So it's one of those things where when you said the first half played out exactly how you want, I'm a co-sign on that. That's I mean, this is supposed to be a debate show, right? I mean, I'm sorry I had to go first. It was almost like Eminem from 8 Mile. I was like, all those things you were about to say, just came right out. Because when you pick the same team, the win. The reasoning is the same, and why they lost the reasoning might have been comparable. So so it's one of those things. Bosa, I think, got hurt somewhere in the middle of it, played hurt. Nobody knows about it. He ain't gonna complain about it. It's one of those things where Garoppolo, we knew, could light up the scoreboard, but but if it's one of those things where he's not doing it, where he doesn't have his reps, at least at the half or after the half, he could be the gift that keeps on giving. Right, he ended up throwing 2 interceptions.
Bad interceptions.
Well, one was at the end when they were down, and he only had a little bit of time anyway. But you don't want to throw that.
That's what I mean.
You're trying to throw that pick. Yeah. I mean,
Garoppolo
right now, what was he? I mean,
well, he threw an interception that looked like, I think it was in the second quarter or something like that, and they were doing well, But he threw an interception that, like, he was getting sacked, he's like falling down, and he just threw it up there to grabs. Like that's when like you're not at that level. Maybe you are like holding the team back a little bit, because no matter what, you have to make better decisions than that. If you make the wrong decisions, that's acceptable, but if you make like the worst decision and then it turns out to actually hurt your team like immediately, and you throw an interception, that's
I mean consider what we just said too. They started passing more than they run. So here's the thing. The pass plays, there was only one completion. So every time the ball is incomplete, the time that you use to go back and throw it, and the time that the clock would have kept ticking were it a completion, now the clock stops. So you got 5 incompletions. Let's assume you lost 3 minutes. 2.5 to 3 minutes, a time you could have burned off the clock. That would have put more pressure on Mahomes to throw, where you can pin your ears back and go after him and not worry about Williams. But when they get the ball back with 5 minutes, Williams had a really good rushing game. It's right here. It's 104 yards, a score, and I think that was. No, he had 2 scores. He had one a catch, that little foot out of bounds the same time he went in, and then on 2nd and 6, when the Niners had 3 timeouts and they were just trying to run to burn the timeouts, he broke one and they just let him go. So, so it's one of those things where all of the stars in Kansas City did their part. Tyreek Hill, 105 yards receiving. Mahomes at the end, he had 2 picks, but running for a touchdown help, passing one to Kelsey. You know what I'm saying? He was starting to look like our homeboy, Mahomes. So, and our Harvard boy from San Francisco looked pretty sharp, catching only 39 yards receiving, three catches, but sometimes it's about when you do it in the sample size. So the juice they nicknamed him. Fullback, and these days having a fullback in a game where everybody's just going 3 wideouts and a tight end, that's pretty impressive.
The fullback is really important. They've showed, there's like some documentaries showing like how Bill Belichick is one of the only people that still uses fullbacks, and it's just the formations you can make from them are really difficult to counter. So it's just to have that third option in there. It could be a run, could be a power up the middle with a lot of, wide running, like chances, ability in the play. It's really interesting to how the fullback is utilized.
Definitely. Question number 2. We wrap that up. Yeah. All right. No, but we got to listen. Before the next question, we do got to highlight that they did win. I wasn't trying. None of us are trying to imply that Kansas City got lucky.
No, Kansas City.
But San Francisco blew it.
Yeah.
10-point lead with the best defense, and don't beat yourself.
Okay, leading into the next one. Kansas City quarterback Pratrick Mahomes was MVP pick. What do you guys think? Did they make a right choice?
I'll take this one first. No, they did not. Unfortunately, they give the quarterback the MVP almost every single time just because. And I think he did a phenomenal job in the last half of the game, but if you take the game in totality, he was not the best player on the field. Like, unfortunately, they also don't give it to defenses. I think Kansas City's defense did phenomenal, and nobody talks about that. Probably Chris Jones the most, but you don't put up stats, you can't get MVP. It's just how it is. So for me, we're talking about stats, talking about best offensive player pretty much what the MVP is. It's Travis Kelce, like, bar none. And if not Travis Kelce, the way that it felt, it would be Williams, the running back. He just, the way he ran, it kind of energized the team. And if you can get yards on the ground and you have the best quarterback probably of the decade, you're going to win games. And that's just what they did. And here, Houston, everywhere,
Yeah.
So I think it is Mahomes drove the team, but the real MVP are the guys that got the ball in the end zone, which is Williams and Kelce. So one of those two. Those are my picks.
Yeah. Listen, sometimes it's about good throws, and sometimes we're all about that yak. All right? For those of y'all listening, yak is yards after catch. All right? Mahomes made some pretty good throws that were smooth, and sometimes he got receivers like Tyreek Hill that gained so much separation. Do you remember that long throw? He was all by himself. Mm-hmm. That looked like a fair catch.
He had to slow down.
Dude, that looked like a punt. Didn't that look like a fair catch for a punt? I thought he was gonna go running the other way instead of in the end zone. So he does have a good arm. He threw it out of his back foot. Looked like a duck until when the camera made everybody realize, okay, part of the plan, because it went right into his arms. The only regret is they couldn't catch it in stride.
He threw it across the field.
So you do have a guy that could throw. All right, let me get with Mahomes. All right, he's 26 for 42. He got 2 picks, 2 touchdowns, 286 yards passing. These are not mind blowing numbers, but just like timing is everything for him, what he did at the end. Timing is everything. Who I think my MVP is. My MVP is definitely Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams. 104 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. He basically had 29 yards receiving. But just like the juice, what we talked about, sometimes it's about when and what time in the game and how. The things that people are not talking about out of the 104 yards rushing. 4 of them in the first half were for first downs. So he's not just rushing and getting like low calorie yards. He's getting important yards. So anytime you touch the ball and on the 3rd and short, or you just touch the ball on 1st and 10 and you get in first downs, those are the glaring statistics or the stats under the stats that I pay that I haven't been paying close attention to. I'll admit, but I did because it's a Super Bowl.
Right.
So. Big up to Travis Kelce, good blocking tight end, and like you said, like I just said, timing is everything because there was a pass interference call at the end, that whatever, and what did they do? They went back to him and they caught, and he ended up catching it. So this is a man that would not be denied, and this is a man that came in with a chip on his shoulder and told everybody, if you want some, come get some, and his team backed him up. He's one of those guys, when you talk at the press conference, you got to back it up, and they backed him up. So it was one of those things that, like, if Kelce got MVP, I don't think Williams would have got screwed. Right. If Williams got MVP, Kelce ain't get screwed. But I tell you who did get screwed on this, Kelce and Williams, because they gave the MVP to Pratrick, my homeboy, Mahomes. Come on, man. Yeah. Not my pick. No. We done. Next question.
I don't know if you need a little bit of time for that one. Okay, there's some reports that Tom Brady is being looked at by the soon-to-be Las Vegas Raiders. Do you guys think this is a good fit? Or if not, who else do you think would be a better fit for that position?
Rob McLean. Rob, keep us McLean. Tom Brady should stay with the freaking Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady started his career, you know what I'm saying, has always been looked on from his college career, was always put on the shelf for somebody else. He's promised he could play in college, gets a new coach has another quarterback, he finally gets an opportunity, bosses it. Comes in New England Patriots, it's Bledsoe's backup. Bledsoe gets knocked out by Mo Lewis from the Jets. I was in New York, I remember that game. Brady comes in from there, let the dynasty begin. Of course, with a little bit of a twist of the Brady Tuck rule that allowed that legacy to continue from the snow job against the Raiders. Oddly enough. John Gruden's a good coach. John Gruden's a powerful personality, and he might rub some strong personalities the wrong way. And Brady would be a match because Tom Brady is not one of those guys that if you undress him in front of the team, he's not going to walk away crying, oh, coach, talk to me this. He's not that quarterback. You know? He's not a quarterback where he has to have the ball to throw it to feel comfortable. He's definitely going to defer and hand off. He's been a team player. And it's amazing. This guy who many think is the best quarterback of all time is more about not his strong arm, but his ability to lead and what makes sense and when to call an audible. And I think he'd be a really, really good for the Raiders. Problem is Derek Carr, man. He led the league in completion percentage. I mean, you're going to replace him with someone that sometimes sees ghost. Is he a good match for Gruden? Yeah. Well, but I don't see where he would significantly make the Raiders better. So, big rumors about the Chargers we've been hearing now. I just don't want to hear it because if they can't protect Rivers, who's got a little bit of mobility, they can't protect Brady, all right?
Yeah, it can't happen.
If I was thinking about Brady's protection and Brady finishing his legacy, right? And this kills me to say it. It just pains me. It stabs me right here in the freaking heart. The Cowboys. The Cowboys they got Zeke. They got a good running game. They got good pass protection. And I can't stand that team. I can't stand that team. I don't even want to say it. Listen, all right. So if the question is the Raider a good fit? It is a good fit. Is it a great fit? No. What's the best fit? Tom Brady, do yourself a favor, do your career a favor, do your legacy a favor, and the people that love and support you, stay with the New England Patriots.
Or retire. I don't know why anybody doesn't say, he's been doing it for so dang long. He should just hang it up and call it a great career. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer already. There's literally nothing else to prove. He has done absolutely everything. And
how many athletes have we seen tarnish their legacy because that kept going?
And not even tarnished, but look at Vince Carter, and I love that he's still playing, but you should be, and I think somebody said this to me recently, be remembered for your best. You know what I mean? And when you're not there, let somebody else go and do it. You don't have to do it until somebody until Father Time. Yeah, exactly. Until Father Time says you're gonna have to stop. Yeah. Back to the question. The Raiders, Tom Brady, I personally see, just as you said, it's a great fit. I think Gruden is a big X's O's guy, and Tom Brady would fit right in with that. The problem is it's about a year or two too soon because same deal, their protection is, they have a lot of young guys, a lot of raw guys, and they can protect, but this is a team kind of on the rise still. And Tom Brady has to go to a team that has a lot of pieces in play. I don't see the Raiders have. They just traded away their franchise defensive player. If they had a Khalil Mack and they had a Marcus Peters still, and they just traded him away. I just don't get it.
Remind me, did they do that to make room for Antonio Brown?
Exactly, and then Antonio Brown's gone, and it's such a circus there. I just don't see how a guy who comes in does all the right things and is gonna get a step ahead and get that team to the next level. I just don't see it. It's a new arena. It's a new organization and a new building. It's just so much new things. I personally think that it would be a good fit, but it's just not gonna happen. And Tom, I just see him looking for a more tournament ready. A playoff ready team. Yep. If you have the one thing I can say is, even if they have Derek Carr, somebody can come in and teach Derek Carr how to be professional, how to lead a team, because he might have the best completion percentage, but Tom Brady can have the lowest percentage, but he's still going to win games. You know what I mean? His niche now is winning games. It's doing the right thing at the right time, playing that super high level at the right time.
And isn't that ironic? Like, the games he's actually lost are the games where he chose to light up the scoreboard.
Right.
When he played the Eagles, I think he had 505 yards passing. And that was a loss.
Well, he watched someone's whole career do that.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning, he beat him every single time because he did his thing the right way, and then Peyton Manning light up the scoreboard. But when it comes down to it, you show all your cards, and you don't have anything else to get the points when you need it.
Yeah. So what's your bottom line on him?
No, not gonna happen.
Not with the Raiders, right?
Yeah, he's gonna stay. He has to stay. I mean, everything for him is in Massachusetts. He'd have to change his entire life to go to the wildest place in the world outside of Massachusetts. You ever been to Massachusetts? It's the most boring, nothing happening place ever. And then you go to Las Vegas, and it's just like,
yeah, all of a sudden he's Elvis himself.
It's
Hopefully we wouldn't want Elvis to leave the building the wrong way because they can't protect him. I get that. Yeah, but you're right about the Massachusetts. Listen, and I mean, to Bill Belichick's, much to my chagrin about Bill Belichick, who we consider one of the greatest coaches, don't be cheap, man. I mean, I think we recognize half of the people from Massachusetts because they were sitting in the stands, and Brady's like, "Who wants to play wide receiver today?" Just give me any short white guy. You know what I'm saying? The last 3 years, because of people like Brady and because I had to set up, it was the this 3-year era of the short white guy slot receiver that were getting all the yards. Welker, Edelman, God, we could go on and on, and. Well, this year looks is like the year of the tall, the big white guy tight end. So,
well, they've been trying to do that for a while, but
football's changed, man. Right? The best, the best quarterback is black. The best running back is white. Christian McCaffrey.
No doubt about that.
So I like that. Ethnically, the football world's turned upside down because between two mulattoes here, we embrace that diversity. So, yeah. So with that being said, I think we closed up shop on that one. Miranda, what else you got?
All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit, talk about the upcoming UFC card that's out with Jon Jones and Dominic Reyes. Who do you guys have for that fight? And also, two-parter, what is the best match that's flying under the radar right now?
Let's do that first part first.
Okay.
What do you say? Yeah.
Dom Reyes and Jon Jones. Tough matchup. I honestly, it's hard to say because Jon Jones, I feel as though he doesn't face people with his type of body frame. So I feel like this is, no matter what happens, this is going to be a difficult fight for him. I'm not saying Gustafsson is a skilled person or that he didn't prepare the right way, but he still can't push people around that are certain size. DC is a guy where he's smaller, so you feel like you can push them around, even if you can't push them around. But Jon Jones needs to face somebody as his size. Now he's facing somebody his size, and he's a left-hander. For me, I just think, again, it's too soon for Dominic Reyes. It's too soon. He needs a couple bigger fights, a couple of big fights before you face the best fighter of all time in his weight group. You have to have more time. He's going to get starstruck, and he's a fast starter. I see a lot of things going wrong for Dominic Reyes, and I'm going to pick Jon just because I think Jon is just going to come out and consistently do what he does. He's going to keep people on the outside of the octagon. He's going to kick him in the knee. He's going to throw off their timing, and this guy is a quick starter. There's a lot of mismatches here for Dominic Reyes. Just because it's early in his career, and I don't think he has that next gear yet, But that's for me. That's how I see it.
Rob, I gotta go Jon Jones. And my reasonings I'm gonna get into in a minute, but I'd like to highlight some of the reasons that you brought up. As far as catching someone on that not ready stuff or that too soon stuff, it is kind of early, and I think Jon is catching a lot of these fighters. Santos moved up to 205 pounds. Anthony Smith, they're just becoming acclimated, and Jon's like, if I want to, maybe now's the time to fight them when they're on their way up. And I honestly, if they hit the top, I think Jon has more material or more homework to study. And he's probably gonna win anyway. But I got to go with Jon for the reasons that the way you will go with anyone we will call a GOAT. Like you look at Michael Jordan, you look at for a long time Ronda Rousey, you look at I don't know. I mean, any athlete that invents reasons in their head why they got to be competitive. You know what I'm saying? Like fighters, the easiest thing. If you think someone's talking crap to it or whatever, it's billboard material. You in the gym, you're raising harder. Jon Jones takes, if not invents, reasons to motivate himself for fights. So now it's a legacy. It's about facing undefeated fighters. Now it's about when there's a discussion about GOAT, he wants to be the first name and the last name, and that's it. And that's what's driving him right now. Now, here's my reasoning. Jones had inconsistent with what I just said. Jon Jones likes to take what you do best and see if he can do it better. If you look at all of his fights, Shogun is a very good striker with legs, body, and this and that. He absolutely murked Shogun. I mean, he made it last 3 rounds to do it. He faced Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen, that's not an example, but Chael Sonnen is a Division I wrestler, and his power double is awesome. So how did Jones take him down? Power double. Glover Teixeira won 20 straight fights. So the first thing John does, he gets him in the clinch, and he pops his shoulder, and he dislocates his right shoulder. And for the next 4 rounds, Glover can't use his right hand. He faces Rampage Jackson. Rampage Jackson, his overhead right is led by his left leg. So what does John do? 3 of his first 4 leg kicks are the knee stomp. You know that nasty. You don't talk about that nasty little side kick to the front of your knee, which, I think should just be banned. That's just
that is.
So he does that to Rampage. So now all of a sudden Rampage doesn't have his right foot for us.
I remember
that. So he does these things. So he shows the world that he beats you at your game. But what he does before he beats you at your game, he takes something away. Santos. He checked a leg kick, a destruction on that leg kick, and Santos's leg was just mangled. Like his whole right leg was mangled. And that was a split decision, by the way. So getting back to what you were talking about as far as size, Jones has struggled with people. His least what do you call it? His least dominant performances, or least impressive performances, happen to be against people like OSP. Of in St. Preux, who's a natural athlete. John won by decision, but certainly not John's best work. Right. The first time he fought Gustafsson, many thought Gus won that fight. I do not, though I do think that was one of Gus's best fights. And I thought it was close, but not close enough to beat the champ. And now you got this guy who's 6'4", he's got pretty good reach, could take a hit. And like you said, he's got power in both hands. You said he was left-handed. We would never know that because if the guy hurts you with his right, just freaking go down. So Jones, if you look at Dominic Reyes, and I'm popping the stats up, his last 2 wins were Chris Weidman, who's debuting at 205 but walks around 220, and Volkan Ozdemir, who is an absolutely dangerous fighter, and that's a split decision. A lot of people thought Volkan won. I did not. I don't know what the hell that third judge was thinking. So if you look at his lineups, Jaron Cannonier right now is at 185, and he stopped Jaron, and Jaron could take some hits. Over OSP. So he faced a lot of people that Jon Jones would face or already faced. So it's a good matchup to watch. But at the end of the day, you're going to look at somewhere in the middle of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. You're going to be like, there's no way in hell Reyes is going to win this. Yeah. He might show something early. Daniel Cormier is someone else I mentioned. Daniel Cormier likes to press people against the cage. So what did John do? He pressed him against the cage. Daniel Cormier tried a single leg, grab his right leg, and what happens is you pop your hips and you lift someone off the ground. But Jon Jones's legs were so long when he popped his hips.
He just sat down and
his leg just stood up. Man. I mean, at worst he was on his tiptoes. He wasn't, you couldn't get him off his feet. So, like you said, some of these guys who are undersized for a guy who looks like he could fight heavyweight. I mean, at some point, maybe pending Miocic and Cormier 3, maybe John might want to fight one of those guys.
I don't know. I mean, the other thing with Dominic is that I think he reminds me a lot of Volkan Ozdemir, which is kind of funny. Is like after that first round, after that first blitz, like what else do they have to show? Like if you still keep throwing the same kicks, the same punches, the same way, kind of how when Israel Adesanya fought, what's his name? No, I can't remember his name.
Was it Whitaker?
Yeah, Whitaker. Whitaker literally did the same exact punch, roll through, turn around, over and over and over again. Where it's like you almost are like, please hit this guy when he does this thing, because then the fight will be over. And it's just, I feel as though Dominic Reyes is that, and he's gonna find out. I feel this fight where, what do I do when the shit hits the fan? When I'm not beating somebody up in the first 30, 45 seconds, and it's like a straight up and down, a tough fight. You gotta, get in there and grit it out, get on the ground, get back up, get in the clinch, get out. There's a lot more to the game than beating people in the first 2 rounds,
Absolutely.
Dominating somebody.
Yep.
How do you win when you're not, when you're getting dominated? You know what I mean? And that's what I feel like is Jon Jones. He's always been so good. I feel like he was better when he was younger, because he took a little bit more chances. He's a little bit more flashy because his game is so clean, so crisp that he kind of should take some chances. Yeah. But now he does not. He just does exactly and waits for you to make a mistake, which I think is a little bit of a problem. But
yeah. But on the other end, the reasoning is a lot of people didn't have a lot of tape on him either.
It's true, and he does something new. Yeah, every time.
Bonner, this guy, he's taking him down.
But when's the last? I mean, he does throw the spinning back elbow, but it's almost like now, and they've been saying it he uses it to control the fighter as opposed to use it to almost maybe knock him out or catch him off guard or.
If he catches him, that's a bonus. But you're right.
But it's so conscious. The movement now is I'm not gonna let you move that way, so I'm gonna backspinning elbow you instead of I'm gonna try to knock you out with it. He's using it as a tool now. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of style bender, they had a little Twitter war where I think he was trying to. I think, like you said, he was trying to bait him, catch him on some of that not ready-ish, But if you look at style bender's body type, if we had to guess, I think he walks around 195 or close to 200 anyway. It's one of those things where Jon walks around 225, 230. It's just the reach is almost the same. Style bender's slips are better than Jon Jones. So I don't think Jones, sometimes he creates those push kicks and the knee stomps just to create a rhythm to see when you come in. You notice he does it in sets of 2 and 3, kick. And then another kick, and then stomp, and then jab, and then peels, and then he's already pointing you to death, and before you could even get in, he's gone. So very similar, but I think Stylebender does that a little bit better. But he's way too light to fight. He's too light to fight and too thin to win on this one.
Well, that's the thing is Izzy is.
You might as well call out DJ.
Izzy is a person who actually tailors his game around what his body is. So I feel like that's going to be a fight where Izzy is actually in the lead, or is the front runner, because Jones has one issue. If he has an issue, which is he's not a natural offensive fighter.
Okay.
Right. So he needs to have a game plan, and that's why he game plans so well, because he needs one. You know what I mean? He doesn't have the natural, I'm going to knock you out.
Well,
kick,
it's a great Jackson thing too, man.
But
he never comes in his fights without a plan.
Right, but I think that's great. And but the problem with that is when you go against an offensive fighter, there's almost nowhere to hide. Because if you're going to fight offense, you're in trouble. If you're going to fight defense with his offense, you're in trouble, because you're giving him that first step, that first chance to give you a feint or to just go in quick with a right or left. That's the problem with what I see with Jon Jones and Izzy, is that Izzy is a great offensive fighter that's learning how to be defensive, and he's doing it really well. And Jon Jones is a defensive fighter who had learned throughout his career how to be offensive. And those two, for me, I feel that the offensive becoming more defensive usually wins out. So
hey, yeah, well said. Well said, my man.
We'll see.
We got Miranda. We got one more. What's good?
All right. This is something that's being talked about more and more, especially in the UFC currently. In terms of transgender athletes in sports, what do you guys think is the biggest concern that we're facing?
I'm gonna go first on this side. Yeah. Rob. McLean. All right. It's like this. When I first started seeing this a few years ago, about a half decade ago, or close to a decade ago, because where you and I are, as far as being into alternative sports, is well documented. We're both, you're a professional beach volleyball player. You're a former indoor professional. I played volleyball indoor and outdoor, predominantly indoor for 30 years. So we follow, mixed martial arts. We follow alternative sports. So we start to see, the transgender playing in Brazil, playing volleyball, this and that on a woman's height net. And for me, I never looked at it from a scientific perspective. I looked at it more from a social perspective, where I'm not a libertarian or whatever and this and that, but the libertarian in me takes over when I think anyone should do whatever the F they want to make themselves happy. If you're happy being a woman, be happy being a woman. We have a friend in New York, Selena, who was formerly Marco. Marco, he was the most, for almost a decade, it was one of the most miserable people I've ever seen, miserable people to hang around with. And now, since that, it's been just this bundle of joy, happy, still plays all the time, very lovable. And a lot of people who've only seen Selena and not Marco, that's all they know. So for that kind of thing, from that social perspective, no one looks at that person as a trans, and no one needs to know, and nobody needs to care, because they don't need to know. Now, with that's the social perspective, and this is where I'm going to be controversial. You got a mixed martial arts fighter, 30-year-old man turns into a woman 2 years in, is absolutely starching women, broke someone's face, broke someone's skull, a woman's skull just shattered. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things where they fought, the majority of these women, if not all of them, when this person, Fallon Fox, is who we're talking about, just name names. Fallon Fox did not disclose that there was a transgender fighter. So when you don't disclose your transgender, and the effects of the male hormonal thing or whatever, and that wearing down or whatever does not completely transmogrify, transcend to what a woman would be, you are in essence fighting someone on kind of this de facto performance enhancing drug. It's like me fighting you, right? But before I fight you, while I'm training, I'm like, Rob's got long arms, a little taller, he's in better shape. I think I gotta take some. I'm gonna take some. So to train on this heavy bag and hit it more times, I hit it harder. So by the time I hit Rob, I'm gonna hit him. He's gonna be like, that's not Jason. So I have a big issue with it. And I do acknowledge that the science, as far as transgender and athletics, it still has a lot of catching up to do. I have a big problem with it. I have a big problem with someone not disclosing it. I think Joe Rogan said it best. Like if all of these girls knew and they were like, cool, I don't care. Fallon Fox used to be a dude. It's now a girl. You look hot. I'll fight you. I'm good. Let's go. Then that's good. But if it's supposed to be not this big deal, if it's supposed to be not whatever, why the hell are you hiding it? What the hell you got to hide? Why there's the elephant in the room. Don't be like, oh, it's not a big deal. No one should have to know because of this or that. No, come on, don't do that. Don't do that. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. The floor is yours, but I know I'm gonna get some backlash on this. But whoever gives me backlash, I take it because I need to educate myself, and it's just like a lot of the people, including UFC officials.
Well, I'd say this is the civil rights, or the civil fight that's going on socially with identity politics, or LGBTQ plus community, that's fine in a social setting. But when you talk about sports, because there's also, like, in the social setting, the only thing you have to care about is obviously how you feel, and then if you want, how people around you feel. When it comes to sports, again, if there's an individual sport, that's that. But there's still the competitor. There's still the person on the other side of the net. There's still the person that you're going to play with if it's a team-based sport. There's a lot of factors there that you have to have empathy. You have to think outside of yourself and see how it affects the people around me. So I think there's two different sides to this. If you're fighting it, or if you're trying to create your identity, or you want to keep your privacy about your identity in a social setting, totally fine. Nothing wrong with it. Do whatever you'd like. But if it comes down to where it affects other people's actual performances, or it becomes unfair advantages, because it's just like you're saying, someone taking estrogen or
maybe
testosterone cappers, exactly,
replacement therapy, TRT,
they've basically taken, because you're going to say, oh, well, now I'm a woman because I'm on estrogen pills, or I don't have testosterone in my body anymore. You grew your entire body, your entire life using testosterone, which then means that you've been using performance enhancing drugs your whole life, and that's what your body is growing up as, because you are asking to transition to something different.
Yeah.
So you actually are illegal. Like, you should not be allowed to do, because you're cheating your whole life, and then you're saying the last 2 years is fine because I'm not cheating anymore.
There's a transgender boxer right now, female who's boxing in the male division, has to do TRT to for this or that. Can you pull up that thing you had about the reason why this came up is because they politics came into play when he started talking about why he likes Brady, and all of a sudden people are looking for strawman arguments on our boy Joe Rogan. So basically it says, here's the thing: if she disclosed it and everyone knew, I'm 100% okay with it. If you want to do that and you're a woman and it's your choice to fight a trans woman, let's just see how you do. He says, I'm not transphobic. This only has to do with athletics in terms of your gender identity and who you are and what you want, and I don't care. And specifically my wheelhouse, which is fighting. There is a gigantic physical advantage that men have. That is truth. That is an opinion generated by scientific and historical fact. Men, sorry women out there, and congratulations to the women who acknowledge us, men are just naturally stronger.
Right.
All right? The 135-pound man and the 135-pound woman, the man's going to be stronger. The opinions differ on that. And you do have exceptions.
Well, it's like if a man said, I will not be happy if I have a lower body fat than my girlfriend or wife or something like that. It makes no sense, because your bodies are made to where women have more body fat because they're childbearing, and a guy has less fat because they are not childbearing. It's just, that's how it is. So, like, if you can't change that. And if there are studies out there that prove differently, then that's, we can talk about that. Exactly.
Sign me up. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't. With that being said, I don't think I need to be a doctor to talk about this, as long as I do some homework.
Right.
We're gonna do at the end. I have a special thing called sports pet peeves. If you have one, whatever. But we'll do that at the end. But you do research, and the research is logically connected to what you've seen in your experience, and that's how you apply it. And if somebody else has something that says different, that shows different, sign me up, man.
Right.
Educate me, help me understand this,
right.
Because there are, and the reason why I'm humble about it is because there are exceptions. Like, I'm not talking about like a G.I. Jane movie where the girl becomes a Navy SEAL. There are women out there that can do more push-ups than men. There are women who, the same weight as a man, are physically as strong as a man. And I'm cool with a woman. We've seen boxing matches where a woman fought a man. And it wasn't like a domestic abuse or like a man beating up a woman on the street where the man's like significantly bigger. These are things where, it is, as sports fans and especially combat sports fans like you and I are, I'm interested in seeing something like that, but let's have all of our cards on the table.
Right.
And Joe brought something else really, and I want Miranda to talk about this in a minute because she's the woman here. Joe brought up something else. Something else controversial. They're cheating biological women.
Totally.
They're the ones who are affected, as far as like equal rights or whatever. The ones who are affected are not straight, bigoted men.
Well, there also are a lot of women that are speaking out about this as well. They're trying to create,
especially the girl who got her skull broke, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's.
She's in a woman's division, so she don't get her skull broken by a man.
Yeah, and I say that too. Like it's like, I mean, it's just my view. Like it's hard for me to watch like a woman fight a woman because in my living, and how I've been growing up is that
we're old school, Rob. And that's why we're willing to educate ourselves.
It's told to be like more, a certain way. So that's why it's like, I understand why, but again, like Joe said, if she's down for it, like that's what she signed up for. That's not, you can't, curse the sport because a guy and a girl are supposed to fight each other.
Dude, And there's a woman out there, and there's 100 women out there that are probably going to say, so listen, so when a guy takes a beating and he keeps going, he's a warrior, but when a girl takes a beating, she's we've gone all soft. And that's a good point too. You know what I'm saying? Like that G.I. Jane thing when she the guy got the award for dragging a 200-pound man from a burning tank.
Yeah.
Like if he was dragging a woman away from the burning tank, it's like women shouldn't be in combat. But you dragging the guy, it's like, oh my God, the guy's gonna get a Purple Heart. You know, he stuck it out, and and he stuck it out until he got rescued. So there is that biased level of male thinking, and I admit it. Does it make me a bigot? No, because I don't think one is better or worse. Does it make me a racist? No, because I don't think one is more superior or inferior based on their race or gender. I don't play by those rules. I just play by my eye test and how it applies to athletics. And anyone that says we shouldn't have this discussion, whether you're on the right side or the woke culture or the not woke culture like me, you're not being honest with yourselves. Miranda, you're awfully quiet over there. Is this something you want to say that's going to school to both of us?
No, I think you guys covered it well in terms of you survived. In terms of just putting the information out there and being able to have the conversation, especially when people's health and lives are on the line. If it's something where people are going to be so unevenly matched because you have a guy fighting women, I would like to say I think Joe Rogan handled it well as far as his defense and giving the explanation. He basically said, I should have, it was fucked up for me to say it that way. I should have said it better, but this is why I believe this, and it is what it is. You can't put people in that situation and not have the conversation about it.
And I thought he was careful in a sense that he was only talking about MMA, which is his wheelhouse. This is what he's talking. He's not talking about the Brazilian volleyball player. Just playing in a pro league and just playing on that woman's high net and getting that bank. To me, it's actually entertaining. If I were a college coach, I would do nothing but recruit transgender athletes who just turn that way because right, yeah, why not have a whole team full of them? But it's a joke. I'm being funny. But he spoke only how it applies to what he knows, and I thought he was very careful. And the whole thing with Joe is all BS because it only came from a place when people thought he was being political. He wasn't, the whole thing where he was like, and it's my favorite line, and I'll say it again because Miranda, the three of us will agree on this. You can find dirt on anyone, okay? It's very easy to take to someone's worst moment, to take their worst moments or worst moment and just focus on that and cut everything else out, isolate that, and then say that's who that person is because we as human beings only infer to the negative. You know what I'm saying, right? If you tell the truth 19 times, you lie once, you're a liar. But nobody's going to say if you lied 19 times and tell the truth your last time that you're honest. You're always going to infer to the negative. So that's just human nature. So what he said was catching people at their worst moment and isolating them. He said you're not going to see too many of those with Bernie. The way he lived, the guy lived his whole life. Even Republicans are like, I don't like him, but he's not.
Yeah, he's straight.
You've never seen him not.
Yeah.
Change for the sake of running for office. He doesn't, he doesn't do that, and that's why he said he liked him. And he said he'd probably vote for him. Did I make him a Democrat? No. Does that mean he was taking sides? No. He's just talking about a person. So
it's just crazy how polarized things are. He can't even say who he likes. I mean, and I'm glad we brought this up because I'm happy that there's a model out there. I'm really happy for Joe Rogan because he's able to speak his mind and also intelligently defend what he's speaking about and not get flustered and not say all this crazy
Wasn't it
stuff.
a great answer?
It's just simple. Okay, that's how you feel. And of course, the response that he got just for saying what he believes in is super opinionated and everybody's just throwing oil on the fire, gas on the fire, but all he did was respond, and that's it. You haven't heard anything about it. It might be outraged, but who's outraged? It's not the collective is not outraged.
Not his followers, for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me that there's a lot going on in Washington, let's say, and then out of all the stuff that's going on, you can pick out Joe Rogan saying homophobic things about his own sport, which aren't even homophobic or transphobic. It has nothing to do with it. Listen to the words that were said. It was just a title that was trying to get the general people's eyes away from what's happening, which is sad.
Well, that's gaslighting, and usually you gaslight politicians. And here's the problem, and we're not going to get political. This is a sports debate, but the one thing that all of these people had in common, who they're coming after, are grassroots campaigners, right? You can lie about your race on an application. Nobody comes after you about that. You can nuzzle little girls. No one's going to come after you on that. But run a grassroots campaign and watch people take these little things and straw man them and make them or big, or just say things that just aren't true. Because in addition to the whole transphobia thing, the people just said transphobia, and that was all they needed to hear. Right. They didn't hear the podcast. They didn't hear the whole podcast. They didn't hear a bit of the podcast. They don't even listen to Joe Rogan, who's a sports guy. So you take that. Like just my last guest, Alexandra Kopko, said that he had the Grand Wizard on his podcast. Mm-hmm. And it turned out, the report said, the Grand Wizard on his podcast. But when I actually looked at the podcast, you know who it was? The Grand Wizard, DJ Stevie. Who's black.
Classy. Real classy move there.
Who's black? All right, so the last but not least.
We went off
least favorite sports pet peeves.
We went to a little
I know. Damn, you might have to sit in on the last one. You might have to be a revolving guest on the actual podcast, dude. And we could tackle that. But we promised ourselves Sports Debate Tuesday. Sports. My pet peeve. Not least favorite, but the one that comes to my mind. Sports pet peeves is a guy coming up to you and saying, "If you never played the game, then you don't know what you're talking about." You got guys that are like, I've been playing this sport for this amount of years. You're like, someone's a coach or someone's a commentator. So just because they haven't played it, they know nothing about it. It's my least favorite lie, and it pisses me off. Anybody that's never played the sport that's going to criticize someone's heart, all right, a hustle and this and that, then that's free game. You could come back at them and be like, dude, the day you come on here or whatever, then you can talk to me about that. But you have people like Chuck Daly, Detroit Pistons, 2-time NBA champ, the bad boys. They're the reason why flagrant foul was invented.
Right.
Okay? Never dribbled a basketball in his life. All right? Jeff Van Gundy played a little bit. Never played at the high level. He's one of the best coaches. Pat Riley even said many times he's better than he is. Volleyball players, Charlie Sullivan, indoor coach at Springfield. Multiple-time defending NCAA champion at a Division III. But on his resume, like out of the 16 Division I teams, has beaten 8 of them. So basically half of them. I don't know how many D1 teams are left, and he's a lacrosse player. So it's one of those things where it's disingenuous, and I compare this on a food level. Someone gives you a steak, you're like, this doesn't taste like steak. And then it's like, what? Someone comes up to you, what are you, a chef? Are you a chef? Then you don't know what you're talking about. Do you know how stupid that sounds?
Yeah.
And my bottom line, and I'm going to give you the floor, just because you don't know how to cook it doesn't mean in your life experience you can't reflect on what steak tastes like.
Right. You might not know.
That's right how to put it.
You might not know what, Wolfgang's on, lower east side tastes like, but I know what a damn steak tastes like.
Thank you. Del Greco.
I'd have to say my sports pet peeve would be the opposite, where just because you have a platform to speak doesn't mean that what you think should be held any higher than anybody else's opinion, right? Like, Stephen A. Smith, talking about how Donald Cerrone gave up, and I still believe that he doesn't show up for his opportunities, right? But to tell somebody, I
just think it's a jinx thing.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If you cannot tell somebody, especially in a combat sport, like if somebody didn't show up to pitch Patrick Mahomes didn't show up and play his best game, and they lost the Super Bowl, we get it, but you don't show up to a combat sport you're not going to be conscious for 15 seconds to a minute, and then you're gonna wake up and you gotta go to the hospital and you gotta go, like, you can't not
Someone
show
asks
up.
you what happened,
Right.
dude, and you're like, you're lost, and then you're like, I believe you.
Right. You don't have somebody say like, oh, when I didn't show up to work, I had to protect myself so I didn't get knocked out. There's a big difference. So for me, just research a bit more, find a little bit more empathy when you have the bigger your your voice is. The more your voice is heard, think about how it's going to be taken in from your viewers.
He had all damn day. Okay, it was a Saturday night. First Take wasn't on there. His radio show is a weekday thing. He had all damn day just to do a little bit of homework. And go ahead.
Well,
I know what you're gonna say.
I'm not gonna say that I would have. I mean, obviously hindsight's 20/20, but in my eyes, Conor was gonna win that fight. So you could have come up with something better than the guy didn't show up. And even if he didn't show up, talk about the things you were gonna talk about if Conor won. I mean, you, as a reporter, you have to have something to say or think about things as they're coming along. Like, ooh, I'm going to talk about this. Ooh, I'm going to talk about that. I was just really unprepared, it seemed like. And that was like one of the first times I ever seen him on UFC.
And I was glad to see him in the UFC because he does have a platform and he does have a following. I was like, wait a second. We don't have that's Joe Rogan and that's not Dan Cormier. That's not that's not Dominic Cruz.
Exactly.
It's not even Kenny Florian. I don't know where the hell Kenny Florian is these days. But it was one of those things where it reminded me of Gus Johnson who was Elite XC. And then Donald Trump had this thing called, I forgot what it was, Fedor fought Andrei Arlovsky. Okay. And then before that fought Tim Sylvia. And they had Gus Johnson do the color commentary. And they gave him all the backup he needed. I think Bill Goldberg, who did his homework on MMA. And you had John McCarthy. And you had two great color guys basically just carrying this guy, and all he had to do was call. He put him in a position where all he had to do was call the match. No one was asking you to be John Anik, right? No one was asking you to be Mike Goldberg. Just call the match. They'll color it for you. It's like for volleyball, right? When I always teased, I'm always on the podcast teasing Tri-Born, because when Tri-Born was up in the tent by himself, it's like ball served out. You know what I'm saying? Does Tri-Born know the sport? Hell yeah. Tri-Born beach volleyball's forgotten more than I know. I'm not an outdoor player, but I was like, if I was there to set him up in plays, you would have gotten a lot more out of him, you know? And the part that pissed me off was like the feedback you got on messages. Everyone was like, oh my God, you're doing great. Oh, you're awesome. I'm like, don't do that to him. Don't you patronize that, man. Was he bad? No, he was good. But great? What are you doing? Stop it. And I hate to come after nice guys, because Tri-Born is one of the nicest guys I'm on the beat scene, and I'm sure everybody, and I don't know if he's offended by this, and if you are, I'm sorry, I'm just having a little fun here, but hey, I'm attacking a volleyball player with volleyball, so that's not personal, right? And that's what we do. And by the way, that video, we're not putting that video back on with Stephen A. Smith, okay? I don't ever want to see that again. Okay?
Yeah.
Cejudo Zingano. Cejudo Zingano. Cejudo Zingano.
The worst. The worst.
Yeah. But I like your pet peeve. We're gonna do that at the end of every episode. But for now, this is episode 2. This is SDT, Sports Debate Tuesday. For the great Rob, keep it McLean. For my hostess with the Moses Miranda Gagne, I'm Jason Dibelius. Shake my hand, brother. Good stuff today.
Always
Good
a pleasure.
stuff. All right. And for now, guys, we're out. So long.